Our upcoming session, Act Locally, Share Ethically, Think Globally, Empowering Learning Communities with AI, will highlight how intelligent technologies can strengthen collaboration, encourage responsible information sharing, and expand opportunities for students and educators everywhere. Let's give a warm welcome to our speaker and bronze sponsor, Dr. Johann Sievering, board member of the Swiss Informatics Society SI, to guide us through this thought-provoking session. His workplace's learners and users at the center, with a strong focus on the social, ethical, governance, and environmental impacts of AI. The stage is all yours. Welcome.
A special thanks to my school heads who enabled me to initiate and develop my projects from very beginning, Mr. Frederick Ottoson at the CFP Art and Mrs. Corinne Gusman-Bonvin at the Collège Voltaire in Geneva, Switzerland. And thanks to the Swiss Informatics Society, within which I set up the specialist group AI for Ed, which launched the Athena AI Hub, the central theme of my keynote. And a big thanks to my wife, Sylviane, just over here. Today, I would like to share with you a simple idea. Act locally, share ethically, think globally, and always with the learner at the center. Let me start with a story. A conversation with my colleague, Jérôme, in the Voltaire College cafeteria in Geneva, Switzerland. Not in a laboratory, not in a meeting room, just a coffee break. At moment, changed everything. And that simple discussion became the foundation of today's presentation. Jérôme teaches chemistry. He shared one of his concerns with me. His learners can write chemistry formula, but they struggle to understand what is actually happening in the test tube. He told me that using simulator helps them bridge that gap. But today's simulators present real challenges. They are often not adapted to the teacher's specific lessons or pedagogical approach. Some are expensive, and building one from scratch is possible, but it takes too much time. So, in most cases, even the need is clear, the tool remains unused. So we tried something different. We used Cloud AI to build a simulator tiled to his lesson. We provide the AI with his courses materials, his exercise, his pedagogical approach, and his lesson objectives. Then we craft prompts, and within 30 minutes, we had a working solution. After 15 more minutes of fine-tuning, we had a ready tool that matches this teaching perfectly. And today, Jérôme used it. One of his learners told him, "For the first time, I could see the molecule move and understood why it reacts that way." But more importantly, Jérôme no longer depends on tools. He can create them. We can now observe an important feature. This result did not come from a central system. It came from a local need. And very quickly, we started to see the same pattern emerging in physics, in languages, in science. This is not a matter of chance. This is a recurrent process. That's the system behind the Athena AI Hub initiative, a structure that supports amplifiers what naturally happens when educational stakeholders collaborate. So we start to understand something. We often assume innovation in education is about better tools, smarter software, and more advanced technology. But that's not where real innovation lives. The real innovation is in the organizational model, how we collaborate, how we share, how we experiment together, and how we scale with that works. Tools are the consequence. Connections is the cause. We realize something. What Jérôme did with his simulators was happening everywhere, in many different contexts and disciplines, but isolated. And this leads to a shift. The future of AI in education is not only built on tools, but above all, on connected learning community capable of transforming local initiatives into shared, evolving collective intelligence. When we presented the way we designed the simulator, all our colleagues asked us to organize training sessions on this topic. We have already organized several courses. That is exactly the philosophy behind the Athena AI Hub. To build on this experience, we created the AI Lunch Café concept. Informal meeting where people come together to talk about AI in education. Teachers, trainers, researchers, administrative staff, and sometimes even school nurses or social workers. People from very different backgrounds, but facing similar questions. The format is simple. 1 hour, one topic, one coffee. You bring two questions you doubt, even you fear. There is no judgment. It's a place where you feel safe. One day, at the teacher's room, we meet a lecture teacher. She said, I don't want to use AI. I will destroy my learners' ability to think. For her, the Socratic method is essential, questioning, reasoning, struggling with ideas. Instead of arguing, we sat together during a lunch cafe, not to convince, but to explore. Together, we designed a prompt that explicitly refused to give direct answers to the learners, but instead guided learners through questions. The tool did not solve the problem. The dialogue did. And something important happened. People realized that we are not alone. Isolated project or problem became shared challenges and shared solutions. This is where the first level of collective intelligence becomes visible. You can start with this yourself next week. Our colleagues were struggling to write effective prompts when they try to create simulators. For non-specialists, creating prompts from scratch to build a complex simulator remains in fact difficult. And the same applies for other projects. For example, aligning courses with regulations, generating assessment grid, and so on. So we decided to co-create a web application called Prompt Studio. That's not only to help people prompt, but also to learn how to prompt. This application allows to share prompts so we can now improve them collectively via Prompt Studio. But the most important part is sharing. Instead of sharing ready-made solution, we can now share the prompts that generate tailored solution. A teacher can make a prompt, adapt it his own course, his own learners, his own context without starting from zero. A prompt is like a recipe. It allows the next teacher to change the ingredients for his own style of cooking. This is where circulation begins, not with tools, but with the method that generates them. Share how you managed to achieve solutions, not the ready-made solution. The simulator techniques and Prompt Studio were so successful that with a group of teachers, we organized a conference to introduce them to colleagues from other institutions. For this, we built a small web application allowing participants to ask questions during the presentation. It was such success that we extended into an event companion for the 2026 International Symposium on Artificial Intelligence and Societal Challenge in Geneva, where participants found information, asked questions, interacted with organizers, and above all, shared their thoughts and feelings. At one moment, an anonymous question appeared. Are we losing control over what we are creating? And something interesting happened. The community responded in real time, with nuance, with care, with responsibility. The tool reveals the tension. but the community absorbs it. The most important part is what it reveals, and not the application itself. If we take a step back, we can see something even interesting. At first, we were only users. Then, we became creators. And step by step, we became autonomous. This changed everything. Because now, innovation comes from the classroom, from the field, from the real constraints. A teacher told me, I've been teaching for many years, and this is the first time I feel I can really shape the tools I use. Let me show you what this autonomy looks like in practice. Marjorie teaches philosophy in Geneva. She comes to one of a lunch cafe, and what she built from there is remarkable.
Hello, my name is Marjorie. I'm a philosophy teacher in Geneva, Switzerland. With the arrival of AI in my classes, I noticed something. Students, they can give perfect answers without really thinking. So I had to change my approach. And instead of asking them to use AI to answer, I asked them to challenge the answer. For example, I give them an AI response to an ethical dilemma. Lying is wrong. And I ask, is that always true, or is it necessary, or just possible? In what situations could it be different? Or I give them an AI explanation of a text, which is quite interesting. And they have to find what assumptions are hidden behind it. And sometimes the AI says something that sounds convincing, but is actually debatable. And that's where the thinking starts live in the class. So AI becomes a trigger for reasoning and not a shortcut like a little Socrates. And what's powerful is that these activities are easy to share and adapt with other teachers. That's why it fits perfectly with the Athena AI Hub. We experiment, we share, we improve together. And in the end, it's not just about using AI, it's about teaching students how to think with AI.
Now imagine you share your last simulator prompts worldwide, Geneva to Barcelona to Las Vegas. A teacher in Barcelona uses it and it works. But it doesn't work for the teacher in Las Vegas. Why? Many possibilities. Wrong vocabulary, wrong assumptions, references that do not exist in the local curriculum, materials that are not available in that classroom. And this is the turning point. It's not a failure of system. It is a success of the method. Because the teacher in Las Vegas did adapt it to her context, to her learners, to her constraint. And in doing so, she created a new version. Friction is not a problem. This is the engine of collective intelligence. One great idea is one classroom does not automatically reach another. For example, you hear about a brilliant new simulator from your colleague that solves your problem, and you try it out straight away. But somewhere else, another teacher is facing the same problem and never hear about it. This is a challenge. Local innovation is powerful, but it doesn't scale by itself. Circulation is what transforms isolated creativity into collective intelligence. Webinars transform isolated exchanges into structured circulation. Conferences amplify what is already moving. They connect institutions, communities, countries. And this is exactly what is happening here in Education 2.0. With what started in Geneva cafeteria, evolved through friction, adaptation, and exchange, and is now shared globally in Las Vegas. Let me show you what look like in practice.
Hi, I'm Smita Hamlol from the Swiss Informatics Society. I'm delighted to highlight the project on webinar series on AI and education led by Dr. Johann Sievering in Switzerland and supported by our organization. This initiative brings together experts and teachers who are already experimenting with AI in their schools or in their work, sharing what truly works in practice. For us at SI, supporting educators in navigating the digital transformation is essential. So these webinars create a space for honest exchange, for concrete examples, and for asking questions on how to achieve a responsible, human-centered use of AI within schools and universities. We have a lot of participants, the interest is very high, and we are very glad to continue organizing these webinars. I warmly invite you to join this initiative. Thank you.
Now, if we take another step back, we start to see the complete picture. You, we create, others adapt, practices circulate, AI Launch Cafe create ideas and connections, webinars allow them to circulate, conferences amplify them, and progressively teachers become autonomous. They begin to imagine their own tool and method. What we are observing, it is a living ecosystem forming in real time. And one important point, innovation does not spread automatically. Innovation needs space, structure, and trust to move. And then something else happened. More and more people join. New projects, tools, and techniques emerge. Different institutions start to connect. If it grows without structure, it will become chaotic. This is where structure becomes necessary, not to control, not to gatekeep, but to guarantee that what are building operate with integrity, trust, and ethic. And this is where AI for Ed come in. When a system grows, connection is not enough anymore. It needs rule, it needs trust, it needs structure. A space where people facing this question can connect, exchange, share practices or tools, and build together. Because at this stage, what matters is a space where the ecosystem can organize itself. And for this ecosystem to work, the question about trust and ethics need answers. You share a tool. A few weeks later, you see it reused somewhere else. You can ask, is my work still respected and will it still belong to me? Trust means that what you create remains recognized and all creation remains the property of the author. Other situation, a prompt is shared, but it still contains learner personal data. This is what happens when people start sharing for real. Before sharing, the prompt must be transformed, anonymized, secured, cleaned. Privacy must be respected. And this is precisely why all of this is governed by the AI for Ed Charter. From the very beginning, we embedded this principle into our founding statute. Article 13 to 17 of the Charter specifically address data protection, confidentiality, copyright and licenses, rights and obligations linked to AI usage, and compliance in education and training. Ethics itself is invoked as the guideline principle in Article 8. There are formal commitments. When you share within this ecosystem, the rules are clear, written, and designed to protect you. Let me show you one team approach this question in the field where getting it wrong is not an option.
Hello, I am Patrick Four, head of the medical library at the Lausanne University Hospital in Switzerland. In my team, we keep relying on collective peer reviewing to safeguard the integrity and reliability of the knowledge to contribute to evidence-based medicine. We use AI tools in discovery steps, and we don't rely on them to replace critical thinking. Would you ask a centrifuge to brew the morning coffee?
At this point, you might be thinking, Can I start it alone? So yes, you can start alone, but it's important to remember that AI for Ed is where local initiatives connect to global movement. What we are building is not another platform or software. It is a structure similar to Internet. On the Internet, each computer is independent. Each system is managed locally. No central authority controls everything, and yet everything works together. How? There are shared rules, protocols that allow systems to connect, without imposing how they must operate internally, but it defines how they connect. No one owns the Internet, and yet everyone built on it. Athena follows the same logic. You work in your classroom. You choose your tools. You define your method. You remain fully autonomous. But as everyone follows the guideline principle, all works can be connected by alignment at the level of exchange. What we built is a network of independent nodes, able to collaborate without losing their autonomy. You, Jérôme, and all ecosystem participants built Athena, node by node, community by community, connection by connection. Our architecture has 4 layers. It starts with teacher building a simulator for his or her class. Each initiative solves a real problem in a real context. This is a local layer. These initiatives are then shared. For example, you present your simulator, others share the method, practices circulate and are adapted. This is a catalyst layer. A technical layer enables this circulation. A prompt or a resource created in one school can be reused in another without central control. This is the gateway layer. And finally, the governance layer ensures trust. When teachers share resources, their data is protected, their work remains there, and shared principles are respected. When these 4 layers work together, isolated initiatives become an ecosystem. Now, a question that matters. If the ecosystem is free, how does it live? The answer is simple, and it is built into the charter from the beginning. Everything I have shown you today, the lunch cafe, the prompt studio, the share prompt, the webinars, the event companion, the hub, and so on, all of this is free. Free to access, free to use, free to adapt. You do not pay to participate, not to share, not to learn. But for ecosystem to grow and sustain itself, AI for Ed offers services. A service can be organized, supporting to run conferences or webinars with our support, helping to set up an AI server in a school, designing customized training courses, or developing specific tools with our help. They are what allows the ecosystem to live, to maintain infrastructure, to develop new tools, and remain independent. But when you need a guide to help you building something specific, the guide has value. And that value is what sustains the entire ecosystem for everyone. The ecosystem is free. The services sustain the ecosystem without limiting access. This is formally defined in the Article 9 of our Charter of Finance, which states that groups' revenue come from events, services, sponsorships, donations, and other contributions. So, how do we start? You can start exactly. Okay.
Hello.
Okay. C'est fini? It's finished? Okay.
Hello, my name.
I will finish. The gateway is open. You can scan this QR code today or later whenever you need it. Up. Okay. Yeah, the next chapter doesn't start here in Las Vegas. It starts tomorrow in your classroom. Thank you.